Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and welcome to 2025. Hope you guys had a great time celebrating the new year last night. Hope it wasn't too good and you aren't too hungover watching this video this morning. But since it is a new year and we have, well, a new year to look forward to this year, I thought it would be a good idea to start the year off by discussing a few areas that wargaming needs to, in my opinion, spend some time on this year with regards to the game. Some changes that can be made, some improvements, some tweaks that would really help the game in terms of quality of life and just downright enjoyability, again, in my opinion. So as we're going through this, if you have something that you think wargaming needs to make some changes to or some improvements on, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And while you're down there, why don't you hit that like and subscribe button? Helps on the YouTube side of things, appeasing our algorithm overlord. So with all that out the way, let's go ahead and get on into it. So a couple of things that I believe wargaming needs to take a look at in 2025. Starting with what I believe would have to be one of the easier things for them to implement, and that is some minor matchmaking improvements. Now, matchmaking, we've spent more than a few videos talking about matchmaking in World of Warships. We're talking about, of course, mostly random battles because that's where the bulk of the player base spends their time. Matchmaking is fairly random when it comes to random battles. Basically, the matchmaker is just looking for, a ship bracket spread of two to three-ish tiers, takes them all together, looks for like a 1 or 2 tier difference, then throws them into a game. Doesn't really look at too much more beyond the tier of the ship and the type of ship in terms of its class and the restrictions for that individual class. And, well, that's fine and dandy and all, like 5 or 4 years ago. But since then, wargaming has, of course, included hybrids into the game. And hybrids are, of course, if you don't know, ships that are one class as kind of the base quote-unquote class, but then it's something a little bit different on top of that. We kind of, I guess you could technically say we got the first hybrids when we started getting the large cruisers, what we used to call super cruisers back in the day, like the Stalingrad and the Kronstadt and the Aegir and all that jazz. But we're, of course, talking more about the carrier hybrids today. The Issays, the Tones, the Kearsarges, the Commissars, the Halfords, so forth and so on. And wargaming's been not really going full ahead with these hybrid ships, but they have been adding in more and more over time. And we now even have a tech line of hybrid battleships with the American hybrid line, right? And the problem here arises in the fact that the matchmaker does not take the hybridness of a ship into account. So what tends to happen, and we even talked about this, I believe, like a week or two ago. If you want to see a more in-depth video on that, you can check out that video. What tends to happen is that one side will have 2 or 3 hybrid ships, one side will have 1, even though those hybrid ships on the other side that has 2 or 3, but not in a division or anything, so they really shouldn't be kept together. So you could, throw one more to the to the other team, to where you have a much more balanced experience, because of course hybrids, they do have a flight of planes that can provide spotting for the friendly team, and that's of course a huge advantage when you have 2 or 3 of those on your side, and the other guys maybe have 1 or in some cases none on their side, so it's just downright an unfair advantage. And that's a big issue with matchmaking. It doesn't take that into account. And I wouldn't think it would be too hard to go in and add in I guess you'd call it a marker for hybrid ships and, have Matchmaker try to distribute these ships a lot more evenly than it's currently doing right now. I know supposedly it's supposed to have, like mirror matchmaking where it tries to fit, like battleship on one side, battleship on the other side, try to match those up 1 for 1. But again, it doesn't really take that into account as far as we know, as far as hybrids go. So adding in that tag would make a lot better matchmaking, in my opinion. Again, a lot of times, who wins the match comes down to who can have the most spotting. And when you have hybrids on one side, the other side doesn't have any hybrids, that's just kind of a straight up unfair advantage. It's why when destroyers get sunk in the first 5 minutes of the game, you're pretty much done, because those are your team's eyes. If you don't have any eyes, you can't, see the enemy team, and you can't shoot the enemy team, right? So, yeah, some type of matchmaking improvements along those lines, I think, would go a long way towards alleviating a lot of the frustration that players have with matchmaking right now. Second thing, maps, wargaming. Wargaming, 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 wargaming. Listen. New ships are cool and all, and we get it. You know, you gotta sell premium ships, you gotta make new tech line ships in order to generate money for the game. I fully understand that. I think most of the player base understands that, but my god, we need some new maps. The last time we have a new map was the Seychelles, and that was released in 2023. So going into 2025, I believe the Seychelles were released in the spring of 2023. So we are rapidly approaching the 2-year mark since we've gotten a new map in game. That's pretty bad. Now, of course, with the Lesta Wargaming split, understandable, you know, a lot of talent was lost. Wargaming's been having to build up the Warships team all over again. Understandable, but, you know, it's getting to the point to where it's like, okay, you know, we really should be getting some new maps at this point. And I don't think anyone's expecting, you know, like 3 or 4 maps a year, but, you know, 1 or 2 maps a year, that's pretty fair to ask, in my opinion. Hell, I'd take 1 new map a year at this point, where at least we're getting something rather than, well, nothing. I mean, we've been playing the same set of maps since, shoot, the Seychelles was in 2023, and we got the Faroe Islands in 2021, 2022. So, yeah, again, we are rapidly approaching 2 years. Now, while understandably designing a new map is a pretty tall order, you know, it's a pretty in-depth thing, you got to take a lot of things into consideration, that's understandable. So rather than cranking out new maps, something that Wargaming could do, you know, to work their way up to starting to release new maps, is going in and at least refurbishing old maps. And they've done a little bit of this in the past. They've gone in, you know, give some maps a bit of a facelift as far as like graphics go, and then, you know, they move some of the islands around, change some of the terrain, because, you know, a lot of these maps, they are quite old, and certain ships weren't in the game when they were designed back in the day, so understandably so, they do need a little bit of refurbish. And of course, there are some maps that just have problems, you know, mountain range and tiers of the cruisers and all that jazz. There are some maps that do just need, you know, another looking at and balancing, which is something Wargaming could completely do. And if you go in and, you know, you refurbish a map that hasn't been touched since, what, 2017, 2018, it'll feel like a new map once it's re-released back to the player base. And I mean, that would help a lot in terms of, you know, rejuvenating the game and adding some fresh interest to it, because we've been playing on these maps, again, some of these maps for 9 years with little to no changes besides some cosmetic changes. And of course, when submarines are added to the game, we got the underwater world. So understandably, you know, again, when the submarines are coming in, you know, the team had to go in and make basically a new map for every map that could have submarines on them. So I get that, you know, that was probably a bit of a dampener on the new map thing. But now it's like, okay, you know, Wargaming Let's Have Split, it's been a minute. You know, we should be looking at some new maps hopefully coming in down the pipeline, or again, at least, you know, some refurbishments going forward. That's at least what I think would go a long ways. And I know, again, they gotta sell ships to keep the game going, game's free to play, but I mean, like, come on, we really need some new maps. Alright, and finally, the CV rework. So, the CV rework, I'm tongue twisting myself with my own name for the thing. The look we got at it was pretty promising. The test server that they did have up for a little bit last year, that was good. There was a lot of promising things that were done there, and in my opinion, at least, I saw that Wargaming was earnestly trying to address a lot of the complaints that the player base had with CVs and the way that they've worked since the rework. So that was good. However, again, there were some problems, you know, with like the DFAA, the way that worked, and the way that some of the spotting mechanics worked, and how it is a little convoluted. There are plenty of problems with it. But again, that was the first round of testing. However, it's been a minute since that round of testing was complete, so I would like some more details released about it. an update if there is anything to be given, or at least something letting us know that they're still working on it. Some type of, I guess, roadmap, or just something to let us know that, hey, we're still working on this. This is what we're working on. I believe it was said that this first round of testing was more about the, mechanics and seeing if the player base can easily understand what's going on. And then from there, they were going to go and start tweaking things. And understandably, that does, of course, take time. But again, we would like a little bit of news to just know what's up with that. A release window maybe would be pretty nice to know. I'm not looking for an exact date. I don't think anyone is really looking for an exact date, but hey, is this coming late 2025, early 2026? What's the timetable looking at here for this CV rework? I was just postulating because, of course, we got the Shinano release. We've had several premium carriers get released that I don't think it was coming out in 2024, and lo and behold, it's not. I don't think it's coming out in the first half of 2025. I think, and again, I don't know anything. I don't work for Wargaming or anything like that. At the earliest, I would think it's late 2025 at the earliest. I hope Wargaming takes their time with it, but I would like them to kind of keep us in the loop with what's going on with the CV rework. Are they still working on it? Has it been shelved? Because, understandably so, it's changing an entire class. Then, of course, the question becomes, what's going on with hybrids, right? But I would very much like to see it come out this year if it's ready. I would like to see them work on it and, again, address a lot of these issues that players have with CVs and such. So, TLDR, it was promising. I want to know more about it, and hopefully I'd like to see either another round or two of testing happen this year, or if it's ready to go and it's good. And by ready to go, I don't mean like it functions. I mean like it functions well and it addresses the problems that, of course, a lot of us have with CVs. Of course, if it's in that stage, of course, I would like to see it come out in 2025. I wouldn't be holding my breath for it, but again, another round or two of testing during this year would be nice, and just some more information as to what's actually going on. Speaking of that, I don't think they've done like a roadmap article or video in a minute. Another one of those would be pretty nice too. But I guess, hey, we'll see what's going to happen going into 2025. So, guys, those are just my 3 things that I would like to see Wargaming focus on this year. What do you guys think in the comments down below? I didn't really include any ship lines or anything because, Wargaming has pretty much been on top of releasing, a new tech line every couple of patches or so. During the years, I was more focused on things that would actually, improve the base game, if you will, and things that many of us have been bringing to Wargaming's attention over the course of 2024. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What you like? What would you want to see Wargaming focus on this year? Let me know all that jazz in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday and a wonderful New Year. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.